Alekna does it again and breaks another world record. The biggest Twitch streamer in the world makes the discus throw mainstream. And we get ready for the USA Track and Field National Championship on the road to Tokyo. You take the throws, and we got the news on this week's Throw Show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Throws Show. Whoa. It's the Throws Show. I am, of course, your host, Jason, joined, as always, by the People's Champ, Olympic trials competitor. He is the head throws coach of youth development at Throws University and Garage Strength, Coach Sam Weeks.
What'd I do?
Sam, I don't know how many episodes we've done so far this season, but it's been a lot. We started back at the beginning in January, and it's all led to this point, the end of July, as we prepare. Next week is the USA National Championship for track and field. It's also the world qualifier for this year's World Championships in Tokyo in September. And my gosh, we got some news going to this national championship. Athletes we weren't expecting are competing. Athletes we were expecting to compete are not competing. And it really shakes up the whole dynamic of what we can predict is going to happen at this national championship. You've been seeing this whole season. This is our first year really going hard on the Throw Show. How has maybe this experience with the Throw Show, but also just really keeping an eye on what's going on in the sport of track and field, shaped the way you've been looking at the season and the competitors in the United States?
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously being a co-host of the Throw Show, like I have to be informed, and then being able to go out and compete and be alongside some of these, athletes is definitely like, it's extremely cool, but it's just like, it complements each other, obviously being out there and I get to talk to these people and get like the inside scoop. And then obviously that just gives me more information. So when we're on the Throw Show, we just have more to talk about.
Yeah. And for today's episode, this will be the last episode before the national championship. I've been privileged enough to get media credentials, so I will actually be in Eugene next week interviewing all the top throwers after they compete, get their insights on how they felt about the competition, how their seasons went, and hopefully how they're preparing for the World Championship after that competition. But for today's Throw Show, we're going to go through a few updates, a few big throws that happened since our last episode. But then we're pretty much going to do our predictions for who we think is going to make that world team for Tokyo once we finish out today's videos. So let's get into it. And to kick this episode off, we're going to be in London, the United Kingdom, where Alekna proves the doubters wrong again, as he set what I am going to call the new discus stadium world record. If you know anything about the London Olympic Stadium from 2012, you know it has very, very high walls. You know there ain't much wind going in circulating through that stadium. And he walks away from the London Diamond League throwing 71 meters, 70. That would be one of the farthest throws of all time if it wasn't in a stadium. But he did it in a stadium, not only in a stadium, but also in the rain. So that's a double whammy of difficulty for a discus thrower. And he surpasses what most consider to be the greatest stadium throw of all time, was Daniel Stahl's 71.46 back at the 2023 World Championships. Sam, we just are looking at this throw right here. What are you seeing on Alekna's toss here? And what do you think of how he battled the conditions, but also doing this in a stadium setting?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things for Alekna is just making sure that he has a good release on the discus. When we think back to the Olympics, like he threw that 69 toss and you could see like the discus was fluttering. Where on this one, you don't really see that flutter. Like it flies really good. Like we all know, Alekna is goated with technique, when describing his technique. But I feel like a lot of the times, let me not say a lot of the times, but sometimes he'll have like fluttery releases. And I feel like you didn't really see that with this toss. And if you have good technique with a good release, you're going to have a good throw. And that was something that he was able to do here, in stadium while it's wet. So it's just like, even proving more that, he's goated.
Yeah, and I think what's even interesting here, so I'm going to pause the video right here. You can still see like the lights glistening off the circle. So it's not completely dry.
No.
Like he took this throw in a wet ring.
Yeah.
And I think it's so hard to say when it comes to rain because it's so many different conditions that you could deal with in a comp. But like to me, that proves it's like if he can do that in stadium in a rainy comp, like it calls almost more questions as to what happened potentially at the NCAA meet. But to me, it's like gearing up for the World Championship. Like these are, unless it's torrential downpour like we saw in Paris last year for the men's shot put, like these are kind of the conditions, like these are worse conditions that he's probably going to deal with in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And it just has you thinking like, we tend to forget this. He's only 23. Or yeah, he's only 23 right now. So it's like, how much left does he have to give? Like it's crazy to me because I'm looking at this. I'm like, realistically, he shouldn't be hitting his athletic peak for almost another 10 years.
Yeah. No, he's already pushing the sport to another level. And it's like, as he continues to mature and as he continues to develop, it's like, that's just going to be even greater. You know what I mean?
And another shout out here is Lawrence Okoye also had a really good meet here, threw over 67 meters at his home, stadium. And I remember like leading into the 2012, like that was such a big meet for him. I think that was like one of his last meets before he ended up going to the NFL. So to see him really bounce back in a highly competitive meet like this on home soil, like it really shows the depth is really increasing, not only like domestically in the United States, but also internationally in the men's discus.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it that much more exciting to see where things are going to end up. And, my opinion personally, like I'm going to say this is like, for everyone who criticizes him for being the world record holder at Ramona, no other athlete has ever thrown this far in these conditions. So like, there you go. YouTube comments section, Instagram comments section. There's your world record. It's right here. We just watched it.
Yeah.
And to continue with that, like, I thought it was cool that there was an interview with him following this competition. And Alekna, you can tell he has a fire in him now in the way he's speaking about his career that I don't think we've previously seen. Like, I think his whole thing has always been like, he just wants to execute. He wants to do his best. Now he's at the point where he's like, bro, I'm sick of losing. He's gone to so many international competitions, and the only victory he's had so far is the 2022 European title.
Mm-hmm.
Every time he's come up short, getting either second or third. And let's just check out this interview that he did right here.
Win today, and not just the win, but also a Diamond League record. So how does that feel?
Oh, it's amazing. My first time in London, amazing crowd, and I'm happy with the result. People are saying I can only throw far in the open areas, but now I have the furthest throw in the history inside the stadium, so I'm really happy about it.
And Tokyo is just around 10 weeks away now. I'm sure your eyes are firmly set on it. What can we expect from you there? Can we expect another in-stadium record, maybe?
Yeah, that's the goal. I'm tired of being second, third. I want a final win, and I think this year I'm capable to, mentally and physically. So I think that's a goal.
So what do you think about that?
Yeah, stand on business. Like, he is the best of the best. Like, yeah, stand on business. I like that. It's just putting it out there. Obviously we talk about like manifesting, but it's like, dude, like this is one of the best throwers of all time, and yeah, he's come up short, but like, he's proven himself. He proved himself in London where it's like, yo, I can do this in any kind of condition. Doesn't matter who's with me. Like, I can do it. And it's just like, all right, if that's the mentality moving forward, I think it's going to be very hard to beat him. Now, it's been proven that he is beatable, but I think just moving forward from this point, like, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I think one thing that's important to note, every time he's lost, have you noticed that the people that have had to beat him end up having like career making performances? Like, it's not like he underperforms to the degree that, like, I mean, you could say him throwing 66 at NCAAs this year was him underperforming. But if you look at athletes who have beaten him at these major championships, they had close to lifetime bests in order to be able to do that. You're thinking of Christian Che throwing 71 at 2022 Worlds when he got second. You're thinking of Daniel Stahl throwing 71.40 in 23. You're talking about Roja Stona hitting a massive personal best to throw 70 meters to win the Olympics. And I think what it shows is like Alekna's baseline is still very high. He's very good at like throwing 69 plus at these majors. It's just we're at the point now where it's like, I think everybody is aware that it's like, if you're going to compete against Alekna, you have to have like the meet of your life if you're going to come out on top.
Yeah.
And I think now Alekna's being like, I now need to have the meets. Like, I can't, 69 isn't good enough anymore. I think we're at that point. Like, if I were to guess, Alekna and his team are probably thinking it's going to take 70 meters to medal. And I feel like that's the way you have to approach like these upcoming Worlds, because it's only getting more competitive. And it's like, as he continues to throw these distances more consistently, all that's going to do is, I think of it as like the Ryan Krauser effect. Once Krauser broke 23, way more people start throwing 22, because then people realize what the human body can actually do. And I feel like similar to like when the 4-minute mile was broken, it just unlocks the floodgates of like what is possible in the sport, and it's only going to make everyone else better. And I think we do have to look to the Worlds and being like, yeah, 70 meters might be bronze this year, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, well, if we think about how many guys has thrown 70 so far, like the number is getting closer to 10. I think it's like around like 6.
Yeah, and especially when you have athletes that you don't even think of as 70 meter throwers. We discussed last time on the throw show the French athlete, where it's like, people now know what it takes to throw far. The education, understanding technique is so much vastly superior than it used to be. So it's like, keep an eye out for the men's discus folks at Worlds, because that's going to be a show. That might be the event of the week. But ironically enough, you could say that the 71.70 may not have been like the biggest thing that Alekna did. So that was a Diamond League record. But he just did a collab with, if he's not the #1 streamer in the world, he's at least top 3, with iShowSpeed, who has been going around to different Olympic athletes, mainly talking with like sprinters and stuff like that. He's doing this whole thing about that he's trying to qualify for the LA Olympics in 28. But what he's been doing has been going like on this world tour in Europe, talking with the top Olympic athletes. And he was doing his tour of Estonia and Lithuania. And while I was at Lithuania, he decided to go meet the discus world record holder, Mikolas Alekna. And, you know, I would highly recommend checking this out. One thing I'll say is, and I'll have this link down below in the description, Mikolas and his team have actually just launched a YouTube channel about a week ago that details the behind the scenes of this collab with iShowSpeed. And it was very, very cool, very well done. And that video got like 20,000 views, like off rip day one. So I'm excited to see what Mikolas does with his YouTube channel, especially with me being a big YouTube video guy. But, you know, iShowSpeed, like, you're talking about a guy who was in the Royal Rumble earlier this year. He's been one of the most searched influencers in the world. Like, he is now known everywhere. Like, you could argue he's one of the biggest celebrities on the planet right now. What do you think of him doing this like little meetup and collab with Mikolas, where Mikolas shows him how to throw the discus? And what do you think this does for the sport?
Yeah, no, dude. iShowSpeed is international. Like, he is a superstar, you know, like, obviously, you know, a US guy, US streamer, but he's been doing a lot of streams outside of the US, you know, visiting a lot of countries, just really, I guess, growing his brand, growing his name. And for him to collab with Alekna is huge for our sport, because it just brings more people, you know, it brings more eyes to the sport of discus.
Right.
You know, it brings more sports to him and his team and just like all of that. So like, it definitely exposes, you know, discus, even if it's just like the smallest, like just a, you know, practice toss or like 100-meter toss with the 1K, like, you know, kind of begs, you know, the question, like the legitimacy. But it just brings more people, especially people who might have never seen discus before, you know, to our sport, which is, you know, good for the sport. And obviously, like, iShowSpeed is huge. And, you know, he raced Noah Lyles. He raced
Ashton Hall, and that went viral.
Ashton Hall. He's been in talks about racing Tyreek Hill. So like,
Yep.
he challenged what's her name? U.S. sprinter. I'm drawing a blank. Sha'Carri, yes. He challenged Sha'Carri. I don't know if that will happen. That'd be sick if that happens. But it's just bringing more eyes to the event of track and field, and I think that's super dope.
Yeah, and like personally, like do you watch streamers at all? Do you have a streamer that you follow?
I do.
Yeah, who do you follow?
Let's not get into that, but yes, I doom scroll at nights, and I watch a lot of clips.
Okay. Well, I'll just say it's like, so I'm not huge, like I don't like watch Twitch streams that often, but I will say like I'm a big fan of Ludwig and his streams.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fully aware of like what iShowSpeed is doing, and I think it's really cool. I think he probably doesn't even fully aware what impact he's actually having on the sport of track and field, but because he's constantly talking about sprinting and the sport of track and field, and he wants to make the Olympics, especially in a time when like track and field is sort of like struggling to keep up with other professional sports and staying in the mainstream, him with his clout like really does add a lot. And one thing I wanted to add on to this video, so I watched this and I didn't even realize that Alekna actually threw a 1K here. So I knew he had iShowSpeed, try the 1K. Do you think this was 100 meters? And if not, can Alekna throw 100 meters of the 1K?
I don't know. It's very questionable, but like, could he do it? Probably.
I don't know what that differential is, because it's not like you're ever going to have a male discus or train with a 1K.
Yeah, no. But it's like this.
I feel like he could, though.
He probably could. This is the same guy who do 75 with a 2K. So
yeah.
like, but I don't know. Like with all those people there, the camera people, like just like the safety of it. I don't know. But then again, this is the world record holder. Like.
And do you know what's funny is
Who's to
like
say?
You can clearly tell he's just like, I'm just gonna take a little BS throw, dude. I'm
And he
looking at
smacked
like
it.
that's still a great technical
He
throw. Like
smacked
that,
it.
like dude, Mikolas Alekna, for all you doubters, is the world record holder for a reason.
Yeah.
He is freaking good, and even if he doesn't try hard, he is still the best in the world.
Yeah.
He can walk through the circle and throw 65 meters, ideally, like on the day. So that's the thing with like Alekna. It's like, yeah, he missed out on winning NCAAs. I think it's time we get past that. We had the discussion. His team is fully aware where he's at. He made the switch to go to Oregon. That might make a huge difference for him. But in regards to like what he's doing, potentially for growing the sport of discus throwing internationally, a collab with Speed, that's a great start. And dude, what I'm excited for is like, with his YouTube channel already doing so well on his first video, if he continues that momentum, there's going to open up more opportunities for him to do more stuff like this in the future with other influencers. And what's going to be cool about that is I think that's going to do so much to promote the sport, especially the sport of throwing. And, we were talking before about how Grand Slam track may have been like a philosophical problem for the sport of throwing. We're kind of seeing that Grand Slam track is in pretty hot water now, so I think when all's said and done, the dust clears, like throwing is going to be actually on a similar playing field track like what used to be. So in that regard, I think what he's doing is phenomenal, and honestly, thank you iShowSpeed for doing this. I thought that was really cool. One other thing that was really cool, this made my week when this happened. So if you tuned in to 2 weeks ago, we promoted this on the Throw Show, that we were live streaming the LA Throws Cup at USC, and we had a few garage strength throwers compete, and Garage Strength's own Alex Rose hit the world standard this year to punch his ticket to Tokyo, 67.51. He beat that really deep field. It was a bronze level meet, so this was a very highly weighted meet for him. Alex looks great. He came off of knee surgery following the Olympics last year. There was, talking with Alex, like there was a chance like he probably was thinking about not even competing this year. Mm-hmm. But in the last like month or so, he started feeling better. I think he only had like a meet at like 62, 63 this year. So he comes to LA. It's his first big meet of the year, 67.51. I love this little thing where it's like he finds the camera. He's so appreciative of the broadcast being there to capture this moment for his family to watch from home. And dude, I'm just going to say this. If you've never met Alex Rose in person, make sure you go say hi to that guy. He's like one of the nicest dudes on planet Earth. What do you think of Alex's throw here?
Yeah, nah, dude, it was a great toss. He
Yeah.
did it on his first attempt, which was huge. He threw, I think it was 2 centimeters over the standard, which, you know, is great, especially on the first attempt.
Yeah.
You know, get it out of the way and just, you know, put himself in a position where it's like, yo, I don't got to think about it anymore. I finally did it. I could just go have fun. And I feel like that's what the remainder of the competition was for him. Just like, you hit the standard now, just like, not relax, but like, you can just, you don't have to worry about it and go have fun. I think one thing, this is completely outside of throwing, but look at the pepper in his hair. I just think that's hilarious, man. Like,
He's a silver dude. I've been saying this for the last like year or two. He's a silver fox.
He's
man.
not that old. But
No, that's just genetics.
The pepper is showing. I love it. But no, it was huge for Alex. You know, he was having fun. You know, obviously, like the little heart at the end, like he was just doing his thing, and obviously he had Sam Mattis there. You know, yeah, a bunch of good.
I love them like he gets
Yeah.
a distance and they go up and hug each other, man. Like,
Yeah, just a lot of camaraderie. You know, a lot of great guys there, and it was just a fun competition.
dude, and also just Alex has such good technique, man. Like, I freaking love his technique. Like, if you're watching a guy to try to learn how to throw discus, I think the thing is, for how good Alekna's technique is, Alekna's movement is very much Alekna's movement. While I feel like Alex's movement is a bit more universal to more athletes.
Yeah.
So I feel like you can kind of translate a bit more what he does to your own movement.
Absolutely.
So yeah, honestly, watch this video on repeat. Like, Alex is goated. Awesome dude. Awesome to see him make another world team. And, you know, I look forward to seeing what he does in Japan. He's now clearly in very good shape. So how his knee is feeling and how it holds up, he hasn't done too many meets this season. So he could actually turn out to be in really, really good shape because he hasn't done so many meets this year leading to Tokyo. And, you know, maybe he'll surprise everyone.
Yeah.
So not only did garage strength athlete Alex Rose have a great meet, but also garage strength athlete Sam Mattis. He actually got second place at this meet to Alex. And on this throw right here, he goes 66-77. This has been the best year Sam has ever had in terms of consistency over far marks. And it's been very exciting to see. You can see like Sam has really matured with his years of discus throwing. That's like, it's less about can he hit those big marks. It's more, can his baseline be at those competitive marks most days he goes out?
Yeah.
And I know he had some struggles a little bit earlier on following Ramona, but he bounced back at the Prefontaine throwing 65, comes here 66-77. I just want to scroll back here a little bit. What do you see on Sam's throw here?
Dude, yeah, Sam has really been clicking. Obviously, I'm very fortunate I get to train with him. And, you know, just from what I've seen, obviously, the results from his recent performances, like, he's in really good shape. I think historically, one thing about Sam is he always, or I guess at a national meet, like, he tries to win it on the first 3 attempts. And usually he does that on, you know, either the first or second attempt. Now it's like, dude, like, if you think about it, just like you said, his baseline has elevated. So it's like, okay, he's going to go into nationals, you know, with that thought process, like, yo, I got to win it on my first or second attempt. Now that his baseline is higher, just imagine what he's going to do,
Right.
you know, early on in that national competition.
Yeah.
So, like, I think this year has been great for Sam. Obviously, Ramona was a good, you know, mental breakthrough, you know, throwing over 71, you know, thrown over 72 times, you know, 2 competitions at Ramona, but just like, you know, putting him in a position where his baseline is now higher so he can go into a championship and throw far early on.
Yeah, and I think one other thing that you brought up here, which I think is vital to understanding where Sam is at, if you know Sam's history, he has always been a round 1 thrower. He's been a round 1 thrower since like 2019. Every big comp that he's been at, he hits a big throw in like his first 2 rounds, but usually it's his first round throw. He's won both of his national titles off of round 1. He's qualified for his championships off of round 1. That's what he did at the Olympic trials this past year. So what's exciting for me to see as a friend of Sam's and knowing what his career trajectory is, seeing him fight back to throw a big mark late into a comp, that's very rare. And to me, that says Sam is really growing into the sport. That I think his confidence level, it's like, it doesn't have to be like, oh, if I miss it round one. Like, he fouled round one here, and he still had a really good meet. So it has me excited to be like, you know, we've seen him in the past where it's like people will pass him on later rounds. That's what happened in the trials this past year with Andrew Evans. And he hasn't been the best at responding. But like, yes, he didn't beat Alex here. But to me, the fact that he progressively got better throughout the meet shows that he now has that gas tank to be able to hit those big throws later in the comp.
Absolutely.
And one other thing I wanted to bring up, because I thought this video was so dope when you posted it, we need to thank Christoph Kipp, Dr. Christoph Kipp, for getting this footage for us. This is Coach Sam here and garage strength discus thrower legend Hayes. So what he did was this really cool overlapping image and video of you guys taking your best throws from the comp at Ironwood and seeing how your different movements line up based off the time in which you're moving through the circle. What'd you think about this when you saw this and Christoph's got you this footage?
Yeah, dude, no. So, like, the first video he did was of Maggie and Chase, and I thought that video was phenomenal because it's like you really get to learn, you know, about just technique and about, you know, shot put. And, you know, I was thanking Dr. Kipp for what he was doing. He was like, hey, like, I can make one of you and Ledge. And I was like, yo, like, that'd be sick. And he sent me the video, and I was like, oh, dude, like, this is awesome. And, like, the more I watched it, the more I was really thinking about, like, dude, like, our techniques are, you know, similar but different.
Yeah,
like,
you guys definitely have different styles of moving through the circle.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see the similarities.
Yeah, like, there's a lot of similarities. Like, the core concepts are very similar, but the style of how we go about them are very different. And it just, you know, continues to push the conversation. It's like, what is the best model?
Yeah.
And, you know, that's something that is continuing to evolve, and that's something that we are continuing to develop, you know, personally here at Garage Strength and, you know, Throws University, especially as coaches. And it's like one of those things where it's like, as we continue to get information like this, we can just better our systems. So when we want to, you know, coach athletes who reach out to us, we have the information, we have the resources, we have the tools to put them in a position where it's like, dude, we can learn from the best of the best. You know, we can learn from all different levels to make sure that we have a product that is perfect for whoever wants it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, you know, the nice thing about cool thing about you guys, you and Legend here, you're both D3 athletes. You guys have developed into elite discus throwers after college. Like, you guys had this long developmental period where you guys knew you weren't finished. You guys, like you always say, the job's not finished. You guys weren't finished because you knew you had more to give to the sport. And through the programming, through the analysis, through all the technique coaching you guys got from Dane. And what's cool about that is you have taken that information and you apply it to your own coaching now, which you've actually provide to not only the athletes you have on site, but also your online clients as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So like I was saying, anyone who really wants to elevate their throws, like, we have the tools, we have the systems to put you in a position to be successful. And it's like one of those things that we are continuing to learn and we're continuing to develop. And if you look at the athletes who have been featured, like the high school athletes and some collegiate athletes who have been featured on Throws University, those are all people who have evolved using our system.
Yep.
So it's like one of those things where it's like, we're going to continue to evolve, we're going to continue to push the sport. And, you know, we're telling these people, like, we want you to be a part of that system. So if you want to level up, make sure you head over to throwsuniversity.com, look at our training systems, look at our online training programs, and pick up a program that would work for you.
And one thing to add here, Sam has coached multiple state champions at the high school level. So this isn't something where, oh, I need to be a post-collegiate. I need to be trying to be a professional thrower. These are programs for any skill level. You know, you could be a 40-foot high school male shot putter. You can be a 50-foot high school male shot putter. You can be a 30-foot female shot putter. Like, we want the programming. I think the best way to say it, one of the goals that we've had with Throws University as a company, as a brand, as influencer in the sport, is to democratize information regarding throwing. We don't want to gatekeep anything from you. We want you guys to be the best that you can possibly be. So like he said, head down to throwsuniversity.com and you get to work with Sam yourself. He learned this system. He's developed into one of the top discus throwers in the United States through this system, and we want to bring that system to you. So we hope to see you there. One of the big stories for this season in particular has been the women's shot put. We've been talking about how the women's shot put has really elevated to the point where it's really starting to challenge the men's shot put in terms of depth internationally. And we're seeing that again as we see Jessica Schilder, who had a massive indoor season, and just like her, Chase Jackson, Sarah Mitton, consistently throwing over 20 meters. She throws over 20 meters again to win the Monaco Diamond League. And I gotta say, I think the Monaco Diamond League is probably one of my favorite diamond leagues because I love the setup that they have. It's almost like indoor shot put outdoors. I think the stadium is one of the coolest in the world. But 2039 for Jessica Schilder. We've talked about her numerous times in the throw show this year.
Yeah.
Phenomenal athlete. What are you seeing on Jessica's throw here? What do you think of her throw in 2039? Another 20-meter throw for Jessica.
Yeah, like you said, it's just another 20-meter toss. She's in great form. She's been in great form all year. And, she's one of those competitors who is going to challenge for, gold.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have her. We have Sarah Mitton. We have Chase Jackson. But I feel like it's really just been those three that's really been shining. Now, there are other athletes who are going to add to that, as you were saying, like we have more depth, but I just feel like those three have really been on fire, and that they've been, I guess, the spearheads of this like just newfound, I don't want to say newfound, but just like this elevation of the women's shot put as of recently. And I just feel like it's going to continue. Like obviously she has very good technique, she's been very consistent, she's been performing really, really well, and it's just like, I've been saying this for a couple weeks now, but it's whoever's going to show up.
Yeah, and I think what's cool to go off of that is Sarah Mitton gave an interview after the Harry Jerome Classic, one of the big invites in Canada this year, talking about how she wants to go 21 meters. And that's the thing is like, when we've been talking about who's going to be for the first one to go 21, as of right now, Chase is the closest one. She set the American record at 2095 at the Ironwood, and then she backed it up with a 2094 at the pre-classic. But Sarah is also aware it's like, I just need that one throw. But one thing she's talking about, and this is something that you need to take home with you as a thrower, as a coach, her focus is consistently going 20 meters as many meets as possible, because that's what's going to get you those big tosses at 21. You can't just look at it and be like, oh, I went 20 meters one meet, I'm going to go 21. You're a professional athlete. They're trying to make money. And the important part is 20 meters more often than not gets you top 3 in a major comp. Therefore, you need to hit 20 meters as many times as possible in order for you to continue to be that professional athlete.
Absolutely. I think it goes back to what we were saying about Sam. It's like 20 meters has to be her baseline from, moving forward. Like if she wants to throw 21, 20 has to be her baseline, and she has to get a ton of 20-meter reps, especially in competition, to put herself in a better position to throw 21 in competition. So I think, like we were saying, just it's like that new baseline. It's like you have to throw 20 meters to really put yourself in a position to get over that 21-meter barrier.
One thing I'll say about that I think is really cool about the throws, and this is why I think it's important to shed more light on it for the sport to get more engagement from fans, is if you look at these Diamond Leagues, so if you look at the Monaco Diamond League, who was competing in that meet? It was Jessica Schilder, Sarah Mitton, Chase Jackson, Maggie Ewan. That's the world final right there. Like, you are competing against what's going to be your competition at the biggest meet of the entire year consistently at these Diamond Leagues. And it's like, these girls are dogs, man. They're constantly scrapping and clawing trying to beat the other one at these meets so they can make that money. So it's like, it's got to be good mental reps for each one of them as well to know that, like, I can beat these women any day of the week, but they could also beat me. So I got to be ready on the day, and having those competitions as consistently as they do only gets you ready for that.
Absolutely.
And one thing I wanted to follow up with, so that was Sarah Mitton talking post Harry Jerome, but Another huge mark happened at these Canadian Invitationals as Rachel Richeson, who became the 5th best all time. I think she might now be 6th best all time after Cameron Rogers went 70.88, or was she ahead of her?
There.
Yeah,
I would assume. But...
So I can't remember. She's either 5th or 6th all time currently. She had a massive mark at Ramona, which we had the privilege to be able to broadcast and film on our Ramona live stream. So if you want to see that throw, make sure you head over to the Throws University YouTube channel, which you're currently at. Check out our live stream of the women's hammer from Ramona, and you get to see that huge mark that she had over 78 meters. Well, she goes 77.81 here in Edmonton. 2nd best meet of her life. Huge throw. Rachel is having the season of her life. You're talking about someone whose PR was 74 meters last year and has now increased it over 4 meters, but also she's consistently having meets over her PR by multiple meters. She backed it up with another 76 meter throw at the Tucson Elite. Sam, you've been talking up Rachel for a few years now. What do you think of this throw? Especially, you have some unique insight regarding her performance at Ironwood 1 week prior to this meet.
Yeah, Rachel's a dog.
Yeah.
Like, Rachel's a dog. I was very fortunate to be able to talk to her, during indoors. I was able to talk to her, and I was also able to film her PR of 78. I forget the exact mark, but over 78 meters at Ramona.
I think it was 78.80 if I'm
I was about to say,
yeah.
but I was like, I didn't want to say like 81 or 82, but I think it was 78.80.
We watch a lot of throws. Yeah. It's hard to keep track. Forgive us.
But I was able to film that. I was able to talk to her about it and just kind of see like her and her coach interact and just, slowly be a part of that. Not part of it, but just like witness it.
Yeah.
I saw her at Ironwood. She didn't have her best competition. She unfortunately fouled out. So that was kind of like the low, but it was like one of those competitions where it's like, just get it out of the way now.
Right.
And she was able to bounce back, at this meet going 77.81, which was huge, especially for what happened at Ironwood. And it just puts her, or I guess it just proves like she's very capable.
Yeah.
She's very capable, and like leading into nationals, like she could easily, put herself in a position to make the team.
Yeah.
And I feel like, this is me being biased. I feel like she is definitely one of the people who will make that team.
Right.
Just based off of what she was able to do this year and, her bouncing back at this meet.
I think what's also worth noting here is this mark and would have won the Olympics last year. So it's like, it's very easy to think about who the previous world champions or Olympic medalists are on Team USA. But Rachel's here. She hasn't won an international medal yet, but she's hitting marks that not only could get you an international medal, but could win the whole dang thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be aware of athletes like this when you're talking about like who could be challenging for those world championships and who's having those breakthrough seasons that could really, sweep the whole thing. And we might not even be fully aware that they're there. So it's like, Rachel, keep her in your mind, because she has been having an incredible season. And she's ready to do damage here, especially at the national championships in a week's time.
Absolutely.
We're winding down before we get to discussing the national championship. We want to talk about the big, other big American track meet that happened following Ironwood, following the LA. It was actually the same weekend as the LA Throws Cup. And that was the Ed Murphy Classic in Tennessee. And Tripp Piperi having another big throw just short of his new personal best they set at the Prefontaine Classic, 21.88. Tripp is another one of those athletes. Breakthrough season. He came back with a vengeance to win the indoor national title on his last throw. We were there. You were there, able to see it live at Ocean Breeze. Incredible celebration. He then went on to get the bronze medal at the World Indoors. Then has an amazing season. He threw probably like 22.30 at the World Shot Put Series earlier this year. So it's like we know he's been in 22 meter shape for a while, but he's backing it up. Another professional meet, 21.88. What do you see on this throw from Tripp?
Dude, yeah, no, Tripp looks great. Like I'd like to see him get a little wider on this toss personally, but like outside of that, dude, like his movement is great. Obviously this was a night meet. Like I think they were throwing around like 8-9 o'clock in Memphis. So like obviously that's out of the norm of when like, some of these top professional meets actually happen.
Yeah.
But for him to back up his 22 meter toss with this 21.88, I feel like is a good indicator, like, yo, he's in the best shape of his life.
Right.
Obviously, he pops off, like, he's going to bring the energy. He's going to make everything entertaining. And I feel like he's definitely one of the faces to make the team for Team USA, you know, coming next week. And I just feel like I believe that he's going to make the team, and I feel like he's going to challenge when, you know, the World Championship happens. Like, he's going to be one of those top guys.
Yeah, especially with those 4 slots being available with Krauser having the automatic bid, which we will get to later because we have some discussion regarding that. I think one other thing to note here is, like, this was a pretty deep comp in regards to, you know, Tamand competed here. He didn't have the best meet, but like second and third place was Chuck Inequity going 21.67, Roger Steen going 21.66. You're talking about all 3 of those guys through 22 meters at the pre-classic only a week earlier.
Yeah.
So it's like, dude, even these domestic professional meets, like, you can't get away from these top dogs. So it's like, I know I keep saying the word dog, but it's like, it's a little dog fight every single meet. And seeing Tripp walk away with the victory, it's like, you know, any of these guys on the day could hit massive, massive marks. And it's exciting to see. And one thing I wanted to bring up, because this is going to be a teaser for some upcoming content that we're going to do on Throws U. Has Dane talked to you about the recent conversations he's had with Christoph regarding techniques?
Yes, I've heard some of it. We haven't had a deep dive conversation as of yet, but we've had some of it, more so on the discus side.
Okay.
But
yeah, let's like set that as like a preview for some upcoming stuff. What I can tell you is I've been having some very interesting conversations with Dane, and he's had some very insightful conversations based off the biomechanics analysis from Christoph Kipp, which we discussed earlier, that might potentially change the way we look at both the shot put and the discus and how we look at technique. When I listened to him talk about it, it was very eye-opening to me, and I've never heard of stuff like this before.
Yeah.
So I'm not confident to say what it is because we still are doing the research. Christoph is still hard at work with his team, really trying to find that research and collaborating with Dane. But let's say in a couple months, we might have some really cool insights to share with the community, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Absolutely.
And, you know, another follow-up here, I want to talk about Roger, because this does going to lead into our discussion regarding the national championship. Roger was talking about him hitting his new personal best over 22 meters again at the pre-classic. And he's just saying, like, how deep that meet is, but how deep the national championship is. Like, he's not even looking at nationals, right? He's looking at Tokyo. He is so locked in that he's going to make that team. But saying, like, all these international meets that he's had this year, he walked away with a silver medal in the World Indoors. He has that professional international experience. And it's exciting to see that we're having domestic meets that are really challenging the quality that you're going to see at a world championship. And I think I want to get your insights of, like, you've watched Roger's career as long as I have. What do you think of, like, just his progression to where he's at now, but also just his mindset regarding being a professional athlete right now?
Yeah, dude, like, we talk about divisions don't matter, and, you know, we talk about, you know, guys who go from D3 to the professional realm. Roger is definitely one of those faces. Like, me personally, when I think about it, I think of guys like Sean Donnelly, and, you know, I think of Roger Steen.
Right.
And it's like Roger's, you know, still doing it, and he's still progressing to a very high level. Like, you know, this is a guy who started D3, went to professional realm, actually graduated, and is now just, like, you know, pushing the sport, you know, to a point where it's like, dude, like, there are 5 guys in the US who are the best in the world.
Yeah.
And he is part of that, you know, that jumbo. Like, it's crazy to think, like, dude, obviously, you know, leading into the world championships, like, we have, you know, our, I guess, big 3, where it's like Ryan, Joe, and, you know, I would throw Peyton in there. But you got guys like Tripp, you guys like Roger. Obviously, we can't forget a guy like Josh. It's like, dude, that's 6 people right there. And it's like, dude, it's crazy to think.
And then there's all the other 21-meter throwers that are right behind them that are chasing them down.
Dude, like, it's crazy to think. And, you know, Roger's one of those guys. He's one of those new faces that is pushing the sport.
Yeah, and I actually want to circle back to our previous post because I want to discuss the men's shot put. But for the women's shot put, as we discuss that later today, following this for our nationals preview, Abby Moore hits a new personal best. She was an All-American at Oklahoma. She currently trains with Justin Rohde at Rohde Sport in Ohio. I can tell you, as someone who trained with Justin for 3 years, she moves like a Rohde Sport athlete. He has a very specific style of movement. It's actually kind of similar to what you see the Italians do, where it's just very, very down fast, like just constant acceleration. That's the way that Rohde tends to coach the shot put. But she's been having a really good season. She threw, I think, 1870 indoors prior to the indoor national championship. She's been consistent over 60 feet this year. Another 19-meter throw. She won the Ed Murphy Classic here. What do you see on Abby's throw, and how do you think this gets her ready for nationals next week?
Nah, dude, Abby's been killing it all year. Obviously, her and her coach, Rohde, have been doing great things. You know, we were able to meet them at Akron this year and kind of just talk to them. And I feel like she's just been really performing. As of recently, I know she's been training with or doing like training camps with Chase and Maggie, and I feel like that's definitely been adding more insight to what her and Rohde have been doing just all throughout the year, and it's just putting her in a better position to throw farther. You know, like she's had several meets over 18 high, and now she went over 19 meters. Just, I guess, putting herself in that conversation, you know, for the future athletes who are coming up, especially on the women's side.
Right.
Because I feel like just in general, like the women's side has been going bonkers. Like it's been going crazy. And, you know, we've been having more of these women step up and challenge bigger throws. And, you know, Abby is definitely putting herself in that conversation of, you know, not the typical athletes that we usually talk about. And it's great to see.
Yeah. Especially that she's like really coming into form this close to nationals, knowing that that's the meet that matters for her. But like 19 meters, like that's a good mental breakthrough as well. That's like,
absolutely,
that to me is like, you know, for what 21 meters really is for the men's shot in terms of like, okay, you're elite. That's what 19 meters is for women. So it's exciting to see because honestly, come the day, especially with how many collegiates are looking to throw in the women's shot put this year, you don't know how well they've been able to maintain form for 2 months since their national championship. And it'll be interesting to see, like, can a high 18 or maybe even new personal best, a little over 19, really do damage at the nationals next week? So speaking of nationals, now we're going to get into Sam and I's picks for not necessarily what the placing of the medals are, but more so like who we think is going to make the team. Because I think that's more of an interesting conversation that's going to carry us through past the national championship. And when we look at the analysis of, you know, what this meet really is, because as awesome as it is to win a national title, I think most athletes will tell you their goal is to make Team USA.
Yeah.
They want to go to Japan. They want to compete for their country, and they want that international experience. So where we're going to start is we're going to start with the women's hammer throw, get into the men's hammer throw, women's jab, women's disc, women's shot, and then we'll finally finish off with the men's shot put, which does have an interesting change to the start list as of right now, because the entries, I believe, closed last night before we were recording. We record on Wednesdays, and we usually put these out on Friday. We got some things to say because that's really going to change up who's gonna win the national this year. So let's start off with the women's hammer throw. That's one of the deepest events in the United States, regardless of whether it's a throwing event or not. The women's hammer in the United States is freaking amazing. And for my picks, they're all international medalists. And that's the thing, is we have so many different women who have either won worlds or medaled at the Olympics that it's so hard to call. And then we have women that have never even had international experiences that are throwing what could win the world championship this year. So if you look at, you know, we were talking about Rachel Richeson earlier. She's one of the top dogs. You talk about Annette Etchikunwoke. She's the first American woman to ever win an Olympic medal. She got second at Paris last year. You have Deanna Price, who's the American record holder. She's the second best all time. Second woman to ever throw 80 meters in the event. Then you have Brooke Anderson, who is the 2022 world champion, who also threw 80 meters as a personal best. As we go down this list, my picks personally are going to actually I think I want to start with your picks first. I've been talking a lot this episode. I want to show some light on yours.
Okay, so just thinking about the group of women in the hammer throw right now, like it's really tough because all of them are fire, like all of them are great. But and this is no order, but I also, or no, I don't want to say also, but I had Brooke, I had Deanna, and I had Rachel.
Okay.
That
Those
was
are all
my
very solid picks.
That was my list. I just feel like with Brooke, like she's been, number one on the women's side of the U.S. for like a while, even though she's struggled, the past couple of years at, the nationals and moving forward. But I just feel like, she's kind of got past that this year. And, I feel like she's definitely one of those athletes who, like, when you think of women's hammer, she's definitely one of the faces. Next, Deanna Price, like, when you think women's hammer, you think of Deanna Price. Like,
and she's having a great year.
She's having a great year. I feel like you can't just not have her on a list.
She threw really well at the pre this year.
Yeah. And
she threw, over 77 at pre or 76?
I believe so. And
yeah.
I got to watch her at Ironwood and she looked phenomenal. So I had to have her on my list. And Rachel, and I said it earlier, it's biased, but she's been killing it all this year. And I don't want to take, away from Annette, and I don't want to take away from like Janae, but it's hard to pick, 3 spots when you have 5 dogs.
Yeah.
But full bias, I'm throwing Rachel on my list.
And that's another thing is you can't discount Janae either. Janae is a 2-time world medalist. She medaled in 22, got 2nd place, and she got 3rd place at the 23 Worlds. Unfortunately, she was one of the athletes who missed out on making the Olympic team last year, along with Brooke. Who, they were the heavy favorites last year. So it's interesting to take that into account. But it's like, you're right. The women's hammer is so deep in the United States. It's insane.
I forgot about like Erin Reese. Like you can add her to the list too.
Erin
like,
also, I know Erin hasn't had, because I've looked at her recent post. She hasn't been too happy with her recent performances. But at the end of the day, she gamed up at the trials last year.
Yeah.
And that's what all counts.
And that's where it matters.
You need to game up at the national championship. We saw Annette do that. We saw Erin Reese do that. And, some athletes faltered. And that's the reality of the sport. As far as my picks, they're pretty similar to yours outside of one change. I'm going to go with Brooke and Deanna. I really think, Deanna is probably the best I've seen her personally. I think since 21, like leading to Tokyo when she broke the American record. And I know she got injured prior to Tokyo, like immediately following the trials. So that has really hampered her the last few years of her competition. But looking at her, she looks like Deanna of old, which is very exciting. And one thing I'll say is I'll also say Brooke is going to make that team. I think now after what happened last year, with literally things going the absolute worst they could have gone, you have 2 decisions to make. You can either be like, I'm going to let this define me, or I'm going to overcome this. And from what I've seen her in her season, she's going to overcome it, and she looks really determined. There's a fire in her when she throws that I think is going to carry her to like one of the best seasons of her life. Now, my third pick, despite the fact her not having that great of a season's best relative to her contemporaries, I am going to give it to Annette, because Annette also didn't have like amazing throws leading into trials last year, but she is fully bought into what her coach does. I had the privilege to interview her post indoor nationals, and she is so bought into the current plan that her and her coach have that's what she used to hit a massive throw at the trials to win last year, and then to eventually medal at the Olympics. So I'm going to put my faith towards Annette and her coach's game plan and say that she's going to have a big throw at nationals to make that team.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't want to take away from any of them because they're all dogs. Like it's going to be hard, and it's going to be very competitive. And I highly recommend everyone who's watching this, make sure that you watch Women's Hammer, because they're going to go crazy. Make sure you watch all of them, but make sure you tune into Women's Hammer, because it's going to be a dogfight.
Then we're going to move on to the men's hammer throw. And, as a quick preview of who's in the slots there, it's like, we have Rudy Winkler. He just broke the American record again at the pre-classic. We have Daniel Haw, who's made multiple international championships with Rudy. We even have Alex Young, who's made world championships prior in his career. We also have some newcomers like Tyler Williams, who threw 78 to hit the world standard this year. And he's only one of, I think, like 5 athletes to actually have the world standard We also have guys like Trey Knight, who also had a breakthrough this year in the college ranks. Who are your picks for the men's hammer to make that team? Again, there are only 3 spots here.
Yeah, so I had Rudy because you can't not. Like,
He's had more.
Yeah.
Dude, he was dumping 80-meter throws at LA.
Like you can't not have Rudy. Like he looks like in phenomenal shape.
Yeah.
I had Danny Haw just because I feel like those two, for whatever reason, have just been locked in, and they just go to every major championship together. And full bias, 100%, I put Tyler Williams in my list.
My dog.
I put Tyler Williams in my list because you know what, I want to see another garage strength athlete make it. Full bias, my list is full bias. I want Tyler Williams to make it.
Dude, I feel so bad because I have the same picks as you do. Like Rudy, you can't not put him on the list. It's hard with Daniel Hall. So Daniel Hall has actually been kind of struggling on a few meets this year. He was struggling to throw over 70 at Ramona, and he's also struggling to throw 70 at LA.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's like a big crack in the armor, I really see it with Daniel Hall this year. But like, again, I'm going to choose Rudy. He's in the best shape of his life. Like it's really hard to argue. And I really hope like he just maintains that, keeps his focus, and makes that team and just gets the job done, punches his ticket. I think Daniel Hall is going to make it because he just historically always performs at the national championship. And then same as you, I'm going to give it to Tyler, dude. I think this might be his moment. He had a great performance at the national championship last year. He's one of only a few athletes to have the world standard this year. So that's like already puts him in a bid where it's like, let's say he does get 4th or 5th place. If an athlete who doesn't have that world standard beats him, I'm pretty sure he'll make that team. It's just going to depend on the points at that point. If someone who beats him has enough point values to get him to the worlds.
Yeah.
So Tyler, it's great that Tyler has that in a back pocket, but also, dude, he's a dog. He is a gamer when it counts.
Mm-hmm.
He showed it last year at the trials, and I think he'll show it again this year at the national championship. I only feel slightly bad because Alex Young.
Yeah,
I didn't put him on the list.
Say.
And Alex Young is one of the nicest people of all time, similar to Alex Rose. If you ever chance to meet Alex Young, go talk to him. He's so cool. And I know he watches the Throw Show. He's been a fan for years. So I'm sorry, Alex, if you're watching right now. I love you, dude. You're such a cool dude. These are just like our picks as we see them right now. And if you were to make that team, that's fucking awesome. So
no, I agree. Alex, if you're watching this, like, I do apologize, but you would 100% make my list if I wasn't being biased right now.
Yeah.
I want to make it fully transparent that my list is 100% biased.
Yeah.
I am Team GS until I die, or, along that lines, and I'm putting Tyler there, but you are on my list if it wasn't for Tyler.
Yeah. So for the next event, Sam and I were kind of talking before filming whether or not we should really cover this event. Unfortunately, the women's javelin doesn't look to have anyone has a potential of making the team because as of right now, everyone who signed up for the national has a PR of less than 60 meters, or at least a season's best of less than 60 meters. From what I saw on the start list, there is a chance that maybe people just didn't update their numbers. But like, with athletes like, Kara Winger retiring, Maggie Malone not competing, I think it's hard for me to justify that someone will make that team. I wish all those women the best of luck. It's just that for what our predictions are for, we're trying to find out who's going to make the world team. And maybe they will have some sort of bid selection depending on how the national championship goes. But as of right now, I don't really have anyone for potentially making that team.
Yeah, I think for this conversation, because we're not really discussing like who we think is going to win nationals, it's more so who we think are going to make the team.
Yeah.
And I think just looking at the list, like you have very great athletes on, the women's javelin side. But I think, when it comes to like the qualifications of being sent out, I don't think any of that women quite meet that prerequisite.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Team USA would even send someone out, even if they were to, do really well and, put themselves in a position where it's like they, might get close, but I don't know.
Yeah,
So
I don't see it based off how USATF historically acts. So we'll talk about the men's javelin. This is going to be another quick one. Curtis Thompson threw 87 meters to open his season this year at the Texas Relays. Incredible mark. As of right now, I think he's the only one who's currently eligible to make that team. So we're just banking on Curtis, like making sure he stays healthy, and he'll probably make that team just by nature of competing at the national. And there's no one else behind him that has that mark. There is Mark Anthony Minicello, who's thrown 82. Unfortunately, a lot of the people that you see there were top of the NCAA this year. Were all, and the same for women. They're all foreign athletes. They're all non-American. So, that's where it's kind of hard to get a gauge for where American athletes are at in the javelin, especially because they probably haven't been invited to too many big meets to really see where they rank against the world's best in regards to like the world challenges.
yeah.
So we'll move on to the women's discus, which I think could be a big debate between Sam and I. Women's discus, we had some runners come up from like very late in the game to show that they could make this team and do some big things. So you have athletes like Val. Val already made the team. She's the reigning. Loggy. Loggy is the reigning world champion. My apologies. Val was the reigning Olympic champion. Loggy is the reigning world champion. Therefore, she has an automatic bid to the point where she actually doesn't need to compete. But I believe she is competing. So Loggy, you can cross her name off the list. She's going to Worlds, especially because she's probably been having the season of her life right now. So a new PR over 70 meters, multiple meets over 65. So when we look at who is probably going to make the team beyond Loggy, you have athletes like Val, reigning Olympic champion, undefeated this year and last year. You have athletes like Jaden Ulrich, who's thrown over 69 this year. She did that at Ramona. You have Veronica Fraley, who's made previous world teams. She was on the Olympic team last year, throwing over 68 this year. You have newcomers like Gabby Jacobs, member of Team Garage Strength. Shout out Gabby, throwing over 68 this year, and multiple meets over 65. And then you also have newcomer on the scene, Sierra Jackson, who threw over 65 to break the NCAA meet record, as well as throwing 67 meters at the Prefontaine Classic. There are so many women that are throwing so far in the women's discus. We're talking 6 women that have thrown over 67 meters this year, which is insane.
Yeah.
Because it used to be like you would go years without women throwing 67. Now we have 6 of them in 1 year. Sam, you start. Who is your pick beyond Loggy to be those other 3 slots?
Val.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Okay.
I also, or I don't want to say also, but I put Veronica Fraley because I just feel like consistency wise, like, dude, she's very consistent. She moves really well and she competes well against, some of the top dogs. And I put GS's own Gabby Jacobs. Now, I think this one was very tough because I am a big Jaden Ulrich fan, and I feel like she's definitely one of the women who has been pushing the sport the last couple years. I just think this year hasn't been, outside of Ramona, hasn't really been the best for Jaden.
Right.
And I feel like, that's kind of been, it's been like that for both shot and disc for her.
Right.
So it's like, I think she's very capable. I just don't know what kind of shape she's in right now. Obviously, we have Sierra Jackson, who just blew up this year, obviously throwing 65 and winning the NCAA championships, and then throwing 67 at the Prefontaine. My only thing with Sierra right now is she had 3 fouls on her first 3 attempts and then hit that 67 on her 4th attempt.
Yeah.
I don't know, now, given she threw 65 on her first attempt at NCAAs, I just don't know where she'll be at for nationals. I think she's more than capable of, throwing extremely far and putting herself in a position to make that team. I just don't know right now because she's still new, I guess, when you come to this professional realm. So I'm not quite sure, but I feel like Gabby's been killing it all year. She's been going far, against, she went far against Loggy, against Veronica and some of the top dogs at Ironwood, and I feel like she's been going crazy this year, and I feel like she's been putting herself in a position where she is going to throw far at this nationals. So
I agree. My list is the same as yours. It's going to be Val, Veronica, and Gabby. And I think it's all for the same reasons that you mentioned. Sierra has added over 3 meters to her personal best within only 2 meets. But that's such a hard gauge to get where someone's at and know where they're at consistency-wise, especially knowing that if Prefontaine wasn't the setup that it was, she would have fouled out of that meet. I think Gabby, like, she has been throwing far at noticeably big meets. She's new to the international scene, so she hasn't had the opportunity to have those international meets, so it's hard to get a gauge of where she's at there. But going back to Ironwood, she was leading that comp for a majority of it.
Yeah.
She almost beat Loggy. So Loggy knew she had to game up on like one of her last throws in order to pass Gabby. So to me, that shows that she's competitive against major competition. So, and Veronica, I think the thing with her, you just can't deny her experience.
Yeah.
She throws far when it matters. And I think that's going to carry her through to another Team USA.
Yeah.
So we'll go into men's discus. This is sort of an interesting one, I think. Of course, you have, our boy, we're going to be super biased here, Sam Mattis. He, made the Olympic team last year. He has been consistently the highest performer at major championships, at most of these Worlds and Olympic meets for Team USA. You have athletes like Andrew Evans, who was the reigning Olympic trials champion. You even have guys like Marcus Gustafsson, who threw 70 meters earlier this year. Now, it wasn't a legal meet, so World Athletics doesn't count it, but he has thrown number 68, I believe, at another meet this year. You have Joseph Brown, who was through 67 last year and made the Olympic team last year in the craziest discus competition of all time. You have athletes like Reggie Jagers, who threw 69 last year. He's coming off a good meet at the Ed Murphy Classic. Who are your picks for the men's discus? We only have 3 spots. Again, there's no auto bid here.
We have 3 spots. Obviously Sam, bias and all, but I just feel like he's been performing super well this year. So like it's hard.
He's been the top American,
he's,
objectively, and he
yeah.
threw 71 and almost broke the American record.
Yeah, so it's hard to not have him on my list. I have Andrew Evans because I feel like when you think of, like the top dogs, like you think Sam, Andrew, and Reggie normally. Obviously, we have guys like Marcus. We have guys like Joe. There are a lot of guys who are becoming that face as well. But I think just, outside of the past 2 years, like those are usually the guys that we think about. So I have Andrew Evans on my list, and I have Joe Brown.
Okay. That's very reasonable.
Joe Brown has proven himself in my world in numerous occasions. I told everyone last year at trials, don't count him out.
I think you and I were like on the outside because I think both you and I were saying that, and everyone was like,
yeah, everyone was looking at me weird, and I was like, dude, like
they said the same thing about me with Annette.
Yeah,
when I said Annette was going to do some damage.
Like, don't give that man 6 attempts because he will take full advantage, and he did that last year.
Yep.
And
used all 6 attempts.
All 6 attempts.
Ran the gambit. 43 meters, 65 meters.
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. I'm a Joe Brown #1 fan. I have to put him on my list.
Okay, I love it. I think that's a very reasonable answer. So mine, pretty much the same as Sam's here. Mattis, I think, to be honest, I think this is the best shape he's ever been in. I've never seen him in as consistently good physical shape and movement-wise as I've seen Sam now, so all support to Sam. Andrew Evans, dude, he's just incredibly consistent. That dude can throw 64 meters in his sleep, so I just think that's going to carry over to the national. And this one, purely gut feeling, not even based in like a sense of like metrics and stuff. I have this gut feeling that Marcus is going to do something. Marcus Gustafsson's my 3rd pick. I believe he does have the world standard, so that is in his favor. But like, I just have a feeling that this is going to be his breakout. Like, he sort of broke out last year, but I think if I were him, I would be salty that 70-meter mark didn't count.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd want to show the world that you can be that level of athlete.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with Marcus Gustafsson. Now we're moving into the shot put. We're going to start with the women's shot put. This is another meet comp where there's 4 slots available. Chase Jackson's the reigning world champion. So basically everyone beyond Chase is who we're going to be discussing. Sam, who was your pick for women's shot put?
Yeah. I think our list is going to be very similar. I think Maggie's been doing really well, especially towards this back half.
Yeah, she almost threw 20 meters this year.
Yeah, I was about to say, I feel like definitely this back half she's been in great shape. I definitely think Jada Ross,
Threw 20 meters at pre.
20 meters, Olympian already, has the experience, has shown up, at these major championships. So I definitely have to put her on my list. And
it's also her home circle. That's
home circle. Yes, that's actually a huge advantage. And I also will say Maya Lesnar, because she has been killing it this year. She won the NCAA championship, and I just feel like she's been the front runner in that realm.
Yeah.
Outside of the professional, all this year. So I definitely think those are the three. Obviously, Chase already made it, so
that's my list as well. I think Jada is incredibly consistent, especially because she got 4th place at the Olympics last year. So we know she's a gamer at majors. Through 20 meters again at the pre-classic. She's trained at Oregon for the last 4 or 5 years, so she knows that circle very well. I think it's like, she lucks out with being an Oregon athlete and also an Oregon native. Like, she has thrown at Hayward so many different times that's like, I don't think anything like that phases her anymore. So I think she's going to perform well. Maggie, I think, is having the second best season of her life, and I think she's ready to do some damage. I want to see Maggie push over 20 meters again. I think she's definitely proven that she's in that shape. I think she threw over 1993 earlier this season, so very, very good meets for Maggie. And then, like you said, Maya, Maya is coming off of winning the NCAA title, had a few meets over 19 meters. She threw over 1960, getting very, very close. I think she's like now number 2 all time in the NCAA, but 1960 is nothing to sneeze at. And she's very aggressive. I think she's a gamer. And I think Maya really wants to show that she is her own athlete in the sport of athletics. So many comparisons are just naturally made to her father, Brock, that I think this is going to be the breakout year where Maya's going to prove like she can be one of the best in the world in the women's shot put.
Yeah.
So now we'll move on to the men's shot put. And the big news surrounding this, Ryan Krauser will be missing the national championship. He is not on the start list. And I did look at the USATF rulebook, and I've been restating this throughout the entire episode. When you are the reigning world champion, which he is, you do not have to compete at the national championship, and you are automatically selected to make Team USA if you are able to compete. Now, what's going to be interesting as we get closer to Worlds is if Krauser even does compete. He did suffer a very severe injury in the offseason last year. He only threw at the World Shot Put Series, which is not a legal competition, so his name is not technically mentioned anywhere in terms of competing this year. And he only threw about 70 feet at the World Shot Put Series. He seemed very, very vulnerable. He looked weak. He did not look like the Krauser that we're used to seeing, and he lost the World Shot Put Series by a couple people. So, knowing that, we're going to have that conversation later on. But I think what's interesting to say before we get into our picks, do you think Krauser will compete? And if so, will his opener be Worlds?
I think so.
You think so?
I think so. I think this is just, I don't want to say like his scheming, but like he definitely knows this, and I feel like he's just utilizing this time to, just make sure that he's in shape. Because like I don't know if he's been posting any of his throws, but he's been posting his lifting, quite a bit. So like he's definitely gearing up for something.
Yeah.
So I think, he definitely is utilizing this rule in the USATF handbook and just putting himself in a position where it's like, dude, I just got to be in shape for Worlds.
Yeah. So if we look at, we mentioned the athletes earlier who are the top dogs that were expected to make this team. We're looking at Joe Kovacs. We're looking at Tripp Piperi. We're looking at Roger Steen. We're looking at Josh Aotunde. We're looking at Jordan Geist. Who are your picks to make this team?
Okay, so like I said, this is not in order, but I'm throwing Tripp in my list. I'm throwing Roger in my list. And, I think for this video, I was going to be devil's advocate, and I was going to say Peyton. But when you just think about Joe, he's another one where it's like you can't not put Joe. Like, it's like
I did forget about Peyton.
If you give Joe that one attempt, he's gonna do something. He's done it several times before, and it's just like I can't not put Joe on my list.
So Joe, Roger, Tripp.
Joe, Roger, Tripp.
Mine's very similar. It was actually the exact same as yours up until only a few moments ago, because I actually completely forgot about Peyton. I can't believe I did that. But yeah, with how many active 22-meter throwers there are in the United States that aren't Krauser, it's freaking amazing. It's freaking incredible. It's hard to put into words almost. But I'm going to put Joe Kovacs as winning, Peyton Otterdahl, and instead of Tripp, I'm going to go with Roger Steen because I think this is Roger's moment. Roger proved that he could beat Tripp when it counts at the World Shot Put Series, the first one, and also the World Indoors. So even though Tripp got his number at the Indoor National, Roger, I think knowing what the gravity of this meet is going to be for his career, knowing this is the best chance he has to make this team, I think Roger's going to show up.
I think both Roger and Tripp are, like, when I think of just like the face runners in the U.S. right now, I think those two have been on a ball or on a roll this whole year. Obviously, they both made the indoor world team, and I just feel like they've just been like duking it all outdoors. Now, obviously, you have Peyton. Peyton threw extremely well at Ironwood, and then you have guys like Joe, where it's like Joe is probably the second greatest shot putter ever. And it's very hard.
Probably he is.
Sorry.
I think that's pretty statistically
yes,
accurate.
He is the second greatest shot putter ever. But it's just like, dude, like when you think Joe, Peyton, like that's who we usually think. Ryan, Joe, Peyton, and then we can throw Josh in that list. I just feel like Tripp and Roger have been going crazy this whole year, where it's like, dude, outside of 1 and 2, like, it's anyone's game.
The only thing I'll say about Peyton is he has had a lot of diamond leagues this year.
Yes,
quite a few that he won.
Yes,
so that's where I'm also kind of on more pushing towards Peyton, because has he had like the massive marks that he's had in the past? Not necessarily, but the fact that he's been winning at big meets when it matters, beating guys like Fabry, Tom Walsh consistently, as well as even beating Joe. I think Peyton is just at that point where he's now reached the level of professional shot putter where he's more focusing on wins than he is distance. And I think that's a major stepping stone that you make as a thrower, is when you're more focusing on that. While Roger and Tripp are still in that developmental phase where it's like they're still chasing those big marks because they're still trying to break through, while Peyton, I feel like, has already gotten past that point. But at the same time, we've seen Peyton lose that spot in the past. He didn't make the 22 world team, that was Tripp and Josh ended up getting bronze. Unfortunately, Josh has been dealing with injuries, so it's hard for me to put him in that space again until I start seeing that consistency over 22 that we saw a few years prior. But let us know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. This is a really exciting national championship. We're really looking forward to it. I think there's a lot of interesting stories surrounding this one that we haven't had in previous nationals. Like just the fact that Krauser's not competing, to me, just like, how is that going to affect the mindset of the athletes competing? Now, no, it's like, instead of Krauser Joe, it's Joe, and Joe is likely more beatable than Krauser at a national. So it's going to be interesting to say. What I'm curious to see is, and this is my last point, is Joe did have a warm-up over the world record at Prefontaine. I believe it was measured at like 2360. So we know Joe's in good shape physically. We know he could be pressing out high 22s, 23 again. With an absent Krauser, knowing that Krauser at the trials in 21 broke the world record, will we see Joe Kovacs try to press that at the national championship?
We'll have to wait and see.
You'll have to wait and see. Hopefully you can watch it. I believe they're streaming on Peacock. And if you're streaming on Peacock, I believe that means you get to see all the events from this year's USA Track and Field Championship. It's going to be super exciting. We hope to get your thoughts on it. Put your predictions down in the comments section below. But also, if you're going to be at the National Championship, I'm going to be there. So if you happen to see me, please feel free to come up and say hi. I really appreciate talking to you guys. Like to hear what your thoughts are on the throw show. What can we do better? What do you like to see? What can we do more of in the future? Let us know in the comments below. And also, if you want to become a better thrower, you want to get stronger, you want to improve your technique, you want to be the best possible thrower you can possibly be, make sure you head down to throwsuniversity.com. It's the first link in the description. You'll be coached by Coach Sam Weeks here. He has trained multiple state champions in high school, works with multiple athletes of multiple different skill levels. We have high school athletes, we have youth athletes, we have post-collegiates, we have masters athletes. If you're an athlete looking to improve your ability as a thrower, make sure you head over to throwsuniversity.com so you can drop some bombs. Peace.